problem, guys. I was just doing some laundry. I'll get some dinner going. Seriously? There's no clean cutting boards? Am I the only one who knows how to do dishes around here? Guess I gotta go make a cutting board. I headed over to my very expensive custom designed miter station to start cutting each board down to 22 inches in length. By cutting these boards to 22 inches in length, it gives me a little bit of excess that I can cut off when squaring up the board in the end, giving me a final dimension of at least 20 inches. Next, I headed over to my planer to start smoothing out the faces for each of the boards. As you can see, I've decided to go with a minimalist design for my planing station as well. Why would anyone want to waste shop space on workbenches, tables, and cabinets when they can share the area with kid sleds, tricycles, and a lofted bed project that they've been working on forever? After that, I headed over to the table saw to rip these pieces down to 1.5 inches in width. Because I am making an edge grain cutting board, this width will turn into the thickness of the board. After planing and smoothing everything out, the cutting board should end up being about 1.25 inches thick. After jumping online and buying a few shares of Titebond stock, I started gluing up the project with Titebond 3, which is a waterproof wood glue. Once I excessively clamped everything, I cleaned up the glue squeeze out to make it easier to smooth things out at the planer. After everything dried and I removed the clamps, I returned to the planer to smooth everything out and get it to its final thickness. This is one of my favorite steps. You insert a cutting board into the planer that's covered in glue and uneven, and on the other side it pops out smooth and beautiful. Finally, I headed back to the table saw to cut the board down to its final width of about 21 inches, and then over to the router table to round over all the edges. I then smoothed down the cutting board by first sanding it to 120 grit and then following up with 240 grit. Everyone always complains about sanding, but if I didn't have this long, boring sequence of me sanding, I wouldn't have a chance to tell you that if you're enjoying the video, please scroll down below and click that like button because it really helps me out. And if you enjoy seeing my project videos, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. After sanding the cutting board down to 220 grit, I stole my wife's spray bottle and gave it a good mist. Once the board dried, I sanded it back down using 400 grit sandpaper. Doing this last round of sanding prevents the board from feeling rough after it gets wet from its first use. The last step is the best, applying oil to the cutting board. Not only does a food-grade mineral oil bring out the natural beauty of the wood, but it also prevents the cutting board from absorbing moisture, which can cause it to warp or crack. Then it was time to take a short break to let the oil set in and everything dry. Hey, I'm working on it. Settle down, you guys. It'll be done in a little bit. Man, all this work's making me hungry. Oh, that's good. Well, that's a wrap. This cutting board turned out really nicely, and I enjoy applying that last oil finish. It really pulls out the color and the grain of the wood. It also helps to protect it when the board's being used in the future. So that I don't have to do dishes too often, I went ahead and made a second one, which turned out nicely as well. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to go down below and click that like button. And while you're down there, if you want to see my future videos, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Until then, I've got to go make some dinner.
Why did it take so long?
You can't rush perfection.
But why do you need a cutting board for mac and cheese?
Who do I look like, Chef Boyardee? I'm just following the recipe on the box. Eat your mac and cheese. Guess I gotta go make a cutting board.